Biden campaign senior advisor Symone Sanders joins me now. Symone, thank you. Good to have you here. I know it's a big night for your team as Joe Biden gets ready to accept that nomination. Yes. What do you think that he needs to really do tonight? And will he be addressing the kind of large empty room that we saw last night for Kamala Harris, which was difficult?
Well, thank you for having me tonight, Martha. We are very excited to close out our convention with Vice President Biden accepting the Democratic nomination for President of the United States. We're very, very excited about this. And tonight, Vice President Biden, this is about the people. You're going to hear him articulate his vision for America. All throughout this convention, you have really heard us talk about we the people. We've talked about a more perfect union. We've highlighted stories of folks from across this country. And tonight we're going to talk about the promise of America. And yes, Vice President Biden will be not addressing a physical crowd in the room, but we are having drive-ins all across the country where people will be watching his speech in their cars. And we're doing that because of the coronavirus, COVID-19. Unfortunately, we could not be all together in Milwaukee, but we are organizing virtually, Martha, and there's a lot of excitement out there, and we're looking forward to this evening.
Well, we're looking forward to it, too, Symone, and as we have been covering all of this week. You know, when you look at Pennsylvania, which we started with in the conversation here, I remember when we were at the town hall, Bret Baier and I, with President Trump in Scranton, former Vice President Biden's hometown. There were a lot of union members there, and they were all talking about how, you know, they no longer support Democrats. They now support President Trump in Pennsylvania. Also, obviously, there's a lot of fracking-related business in Pennsylvania. So how does the Biden campaign reach back to those blue-collar voters who have, many of whom abandoned the Democrat Party the last time around?
Well, look, Martha, the folks that you are talking about, these are folks that Joe Biden grew up with. This is who he is. He often talks about his Scranton roots. And the way that we reach these voters, much like the way that we reach young voters or progressive voters, is speaking directly to the issues. And that means really addressing the crises that America is currently experiencing. We have a public health crisis that has taken, this COVID-19 has taken the lives of more than 72,000 people in America. We also have an economic crisis. Folks are out of work. More than 16 million people have filed for unemployment insurance. And so we feel good about our operation in Pennsylvania. As you know, Vice President Biden has spent a lot of time there. We will be back again very soon. This is very important to us.
But as you know, the way to reach those blue-collar workers is not the same way that you reach progressive voters. And a lot of people think that the Democrat Party has leaned too far to reaching out to the progressive voter. We heard Joe Biden say that he will be the most progressive president ever in history if he is elected. So I'm thinking about these folks in Delaware. I'm thinking about folks who are in those energy businesses in Pennsylvania and wondering what you're doing specifically to address them.
Well, Martha, the Democratic Party, as you saw this week, has a large tent. And what we have talked about throughout the course of this convention and, frankly, throughout the course of this campaign is focusing on the people, talking about Vice President Biden and Senator Kamala Harris's vision for America, what we will do to make sure that we build back not just to the way we were before, but build back better, to create good union-paying jobs. Vice President Biden has laid out a whole plan that said this. Now, the president, on the other hand, I believe every week is infrastructure week, but we have yet to see an infrastructure plan. Vice President Biden laid out his plan for a clean energy economy and infrastructure. And let me tell you, because you just said something really interesting, Martha. You said the way to talk to progressives is not the way to reach voters in Pennsylvania, if you will. Well, in this particular plan that he laid out, the third plank, one of the planks of his Build Back Better plan, that plan was lauded by climate activists, folks in the Sunrise Movement, but also folks from IBEW and the UAW. Why is that? Because they know that Joe Biden's plan for a clean energy economy and infrastructure will create good union-paying jobs.
What do you do if you're a Pennsylvania worker?
I'm sorry, but I also know, though, Martha, that his plan is good for climate and addressing climate change. So that's the only point here.
So what do you say,
Symone?
I'm sorry, but we're talking over each other, but I do want to ask you one more question before we run out of time. What are you going to tell the voter who works in the fracking business in Western Pennsylvania, where there are probably 200,000 jobs in that area? And they say, look, I know that he says he's going to let the existing leases still be carried out, but what about the next one? On the next one, I'm out of a job.
Vice President Biden does not believe in banning fracking. That is not his plan. Our plan is a plan that creates good union-paying jobs. It's also a plan that, yes, transitions us to a clean energy economy, and it brings everybody along. So, look, this is not I think what we're setting up, what the Trump campaign, frankly, part of me has set up, is a false choice here. It's not, do we address the existential threat that is climate change in this country, or do we make sure people have jobs? No. We can absolutely do both. And Joe Biden has put forth a plan to do just that. I'd like to see the Trump campaign's plan. I'd like to see the Trump administration's plan to do that. We haven't seen it yet, but I'll keep watching.
All right. Lots more to talk about. So we hope you'll come back soon. Thank you very much, Symone.
Absolutely.
Big night, obviously, for the Biden